practice, and practice. Understand?
Hello honeys, I've collected all 63 choreographies in the original Aikatsu anime and I put them all together for you. Enjoy! 63. Prism Spiral. This is an interesting one to start with because it actually has a lot of strengths, but is bad enough to be at the bottom anyway. See, in this list I give a lot of points for having different animation for each character, and even more points for showing interaction between the characters. Prism Spiral has both of those qualities, but the dance moves themselves are from the original season, and are so cringy that I find this performance genuinely difficult to watch. 62. Take Me Higher. Another important point for this list is that we're only evaluating the most recent version of the choreo with the largest number of characters. That way it has the best possible chance to get points for complexity. But even with an extra dancer, Take Me Higher still barely has one formation change. All characters share the same animation and they don't interact. Despite a couple of elegant sections, the standout dance moves are silly to a ridiculous extent, which doesn't match the tone of the song at all. 61. We Wish You a Merry Christmas Aikatsu version. Runway stages have a bit of an unfair advantage since they give more opportunities for interesting transitions and progression in the dance itself. But here, in We Wish You a Merry Christmas, they managed to find the cringiest way possible to integrate a hip-hop influence. All of its points come from the unique dueling stages concept. I find this one borderline unwatchable. 60. Aurora Princess. In comparison, minimal dancing is better than terrible dancing, so even though Aurora Princess is mostly a series of detailed hand gestures, it gets more points. There's a tiny hint of ballet in there for some interest, but it's clearly not designed as anything more than a static solo number, which is fine, it's just not what we're looking for. 59. Stranger Alien. I appreciate the perfume references in Stranger Alien. The whimsical style is fun and generally executed well aside from a few awkward movements. It's mostly down here because it uses extremely simple movements as its memorable moments, and is otherwise a lot of walking. There's a lot more you can do even with a straightforward concept like this. 58. Kira Power. Kira Power disappointed me because for a title track, its choreography is extremely generic. It has its awkward moments, body rolls seem a little cursed in the series in general, but it really doesn't bother to do much. The formation changes and character interactions are both extremely sparse despite this basically being a signature stage for Ichigo and Seira, who usually have a lot of personality to show off. 57. Passion Flower. Rather than being generic, Passion Flower loses points for failing to integrate its unique Spanish influence well. The transitions between steps feel weirdly disjointed and it makes the overall progression down the stage a bit awkward. Most of the key poses also look stiff to me, like they haven't fully figured out the style they're going for in the animation. I gave it some credit for its creativity though. 56. Calendar Girl. Calendar Girl is our first real display of early season jankiness. This 5-member version doesn't do it any favors, but since I'm used to the choppy style by now, I can see some charm through all of its flaws. Still, the animation is duplicated for every character, it has some awkward poses, and doesn't even try to make any formation changes. The spinning move with the foot pickups is fun, but it's almost like a child's idea of what idol choreography would be. 55. Growing for a Dream. The same style is retained in Growing for a Dream, but this one has smoother transitions between the moves at least. It's mostly focused on big contrast between its key poses, which makes it extremely simple, but clean execution goes a long way here. 54. Friend. Friend is another disappointing choreo because character interaction and individuality is built into its core concept. So how in the world did they ruin it so badly with such awkward movements and transitions? It's like they were struggling to come up with ways to integrate both dancer styles. Ironically, the more synchronized sections end up working the best here. 53. Dance in the Rain. I mean no disrespect to Ichigo, my favorite character, when I say that she is not strong in dance, and her choreo reflects that. Dance in the Rain is more of a child's march down the sidewalk than a choreographed dance performance. It's cute, and I like the hopscotch steps in particular, but it's mostly walking. 52. Glass Doll. Glass Doll is also barely a dance performance. It's clearly only meant to be a stationary solo sequence and is understandably centered around the mic stand prop. That said, its limited scope lets it be fairly smooth despite the early season limitations. It just barely avoids looking awkward. 51. Melody of Heart. Akari's Melody of Heart has a lot in common with Ichigo's Dance in the Rain, but here the progressions feel a little more sophisticated. There are clearly planned transitions and the expressions match the tone of the song. It feels simple and childish in a more intentional way than we've seen so far. 50. Moonlight Destiny. The only reason that Moonlight Destiny is higher is that it's more committed to its ballet inspiration, which gives it some more complex movements that deserve credit. It's still an extremely minimal number with several awkward progressions and isn't designed for a group at all, but it's something. If the expressions of the characters match the tone more, it might have been a little higher. 49. Signalize. I've given Signalize a lot of slack for being iconic. Objectively speaking, it has a ton of flaws that we could pick apart, like the lack of formation changes, the awkward posing, the choppy transitions, and the mostly nonsensical style. But I can't help but feel that it's doing its best, and I can't bear to put it any lower. It has a cool slide at the end at least. 48. Shining Sky on the G-string. I've actually been cruel in putting Signalize that low because we still have Shining Sky on the G-string above it. It's an extremely simple choreo, but it has smooth transitions and no awkward moments. Not much of anything but some basic, cute dance steps, but again, cleanly executed. 47. Love Game. Love Game is a little tragic because you can see the vision and the character interactions in the choreo are very strong. But the dance steps and poses are not always that appealing, so it ends up feeling just a little cringy. There are good expressions and an attempt at complex footwork, so you get some nice contrast in the overall performance that feels good. We're at a B+ level at this point. 46. Lucky Train. The hip-hop influence is a little more polished in Lucky Train, but it's still not all the way there. So you get a mix of cute poses and transitions interspersed with some more awkward ones. I appreciate the eye contact between the characters. It helps make up for the lack of variety in the duplicate animation and single formation. 45. Pretty Pretty. In Pretty Pretty, we have another number primarily made up of big repeatable movements for the child audience to imitate, which is fine. I like that it also incorporates some subtle formation changes. But in simplifying the movements, the transitions do end up looking pretty clunky. Extra points for the character interaction section at the end. 44. Shining Line. It's a shame that the title track choreo seems to be purposely simplified, either for the audience to copy or maybe even the live concert performances if they were planning ahead for real-life tours. There are some subtle formation changes in Shining Line and some individualization between characters at one point, but it's otherwise pretty unremarkable. 43. Tutu Ballerina. Tutu Ballerina is creative, and I'll start by complimenting its consistent hip-hop inspired style. It's not a style I enjoy as much, I don't think Aikatsu does it justice, but it is interesting. I've given it extra points for experimenting with something new, but overall I don't find the disconnected character performances to be as satisfying to watch. 42. Smiling Suncatcher. For all of its fun points, Smiling Suncatcher is also a style I don't particularly connect with. It feels just a little too silly for me, and moves that might be charming to someone else strike me as a bit too awkward. It's great that it has lots of character interaction and some effort put into its formation changes, but overall I wish it had some more contrast between lower and higher energy sections. 41. Tarte Tatin. Sumire's signature dance style is another one that I tend to struggle with. Tarte Tatin is a more experimental piece, so I find a lot of its poses and transitions to be more awkward than appealing. It uses its mirror prop well, and again the unique style deserves points for creativity, but I can't raise it much higher. It is mostly upper body gestures after all. 40. Move On Now. For one of the earliest choreos in the series, I found Move On Now to be surprisingly good at balancing elegance and cuteness. There are still some trademark weird movements and transitions, but its poses are particularly strong. I like the way the choreo has been updated from a solo to a group performance too. They managed to fit in some good character interactions. 39. Trap of Love. Trap of Love is another early season choreo that holds up surprisingly well. It doesn't have any formation changes, and there are some moments to nitpick, but overall it looks pretty smooth. There's nice effort put into the expressions, plus some more complex footwork than what we've seen so far. We've reached an A- grade by now. 38. Angel Snow. There's a quality jump here because of the updated animation, but Angel Snow is from early in the series too. It's my baseline for professional looking idol choreo. Its movements are very traditional for the genre and flow pretty seamlessly. The fruit props are cute, and the moving stage helps create some interesting formations. 37. Blooming Blooming. Blooming Blooming is a slightly different style. It's jazzier, which mostly comes through in the detailed hand gestures and the more theatrical poses. There's a lot of care put into the expressions as well. This style is a bit hit or miss for me though, especially in some of the hopping steps that I don't like as much. 36. Hello New World. I prefer the sillier, more exaggerated style of Hello New World. Even though it's not doing anything special with character interactions or formations, it gets away with relatively few awkward sections. The progression down the stage generally feels smooth, so I give it an A for being cute but unremarkable. 35. Choo Choo Rainbow. I always appreciate the range of expression in Otome's performances, and her choreo is no exception. It builds on the silly style we covered in Hello New World, this time with even more acting and more whimsical poses. It makes great use of all the props and stage elements it has to work with. That said, some of these sections are more restricted, so it's missing some points for complexity. 34. Diamond Happy. As much as I adore Diamond Happy, I can only do so much for it on the choreography front. It retains a lot of the OG season playful awkwardness, mostly in its childish movements and focus on big repeatable moments, which is charming in its own way but lacks polish at times. It has some subtle formation changes and great energy, but there is a lot that you could nitpick about it. 33. Doot Dua Do It. Doot Dua Do It is the most overtly ballet-inspired choreo in the series, which gives it a lot of points for novelty. It's another one that's focused on strong poses and smooth transitions. The formation changes are simple but effective, even though they're sparingly used. I'm not as into the jazz steps, and it's missing some of the interesting progression from the runway version, but overall it's not too bad. 32. Emerald Magic. We're back to the experimental style for Sumire's Emerald Magic. It has good expressions and cool staccato sections, but it feels more immature than comfortable in its progressions. There are moments where it feels almost a little offbeat, so even though there's a lot of creativity here, the messy execution holds it back a lot. 31. Hello Winter Love. There's nothing awkward about Hello Winter Love. It manages to feel fairly elegant even with its youthful moments. The ballet influences definitely help with that, but I think the jazz influences are finally fitting in smoothly too. There are also some slight formation changes that give it some complexity. 30. Eternally Flickering Flame. It's a little unfortunate that our criteria had us ranking Akari's version of Eternally Flickering Flame because Eureka's version might have sold the tone better. There are some expressions that don't quite match the song here, but overall it's still a cool piece. The doll-like movements are especially interesting, and the progression is smooth throughout. Even with less detail, the steps have good contrast. 29. Happiness on the Same Earth. While there are some awkward pose transitions in Happiness on the Same Earth, it has a unique strength in using the stage to communicate scale. That initial jump between stage levels communicates a tiny fairy scale really well, and from there the ballet inspiration is even more successful at pushing the more whimsical tone. For an early season performance, the expressions are nicely done too. 28. Happy Crescendo. Most of Happy Crescendo's points come from its individualized animation between the characters. Formation changes are used subtly, but they're there. There's only a tiny bit of awkwardness in the big childish movements, and the expressions are pretty detailed throughout the performance. It's passably entertaining for me. 27. Queen of Roses. In Queen of Roses, I think Sumire's more experimental style finally reaches a solid conclusion. It has strong poses, but the transitions between them are still hit or miss for me. There's interesting footwork and great use of expressions. You can tell the stage was meant for a runway originally, so I can't help but wonder what it would have looked like with more forward progression. 26. Idol Activity. Idol Activity's choreo looks pretty clean by the time it shows up in the third season. It has the OG season's signature big repeatable movements, but they're very effective here. Keeping it simple keeps the transitions from looking messy, and the subtle formation changes help boost it a bit more. It's charming, iconic, and nothing stands out in a bad way to me. 25. Original Star. Even with a jazzier style, Original Star is entertaining enough to pull me in. There are cute details in the footwork and hand gestures, so even without any formation changes or character interactions, I still really like it. It strikes a good balance between intentionally exaggerated poses and looser, more childish moments. 24. Good Morning My Dream. I love the individualized animation in Good Morning My Dream. It's a great elevation for the group version of the choreo. The pantomiming gestures are fun, and the slight formation changes are effective even if they are subtle. It's very similar to the original season's silly, exaggerated movements, but with a lot more intention behind its poses. 23. Idol Activity Rock Version. Idol Activity Rock Version has a lot of novelty from the rock influence and mic props. The eye contact between characters is a nice addition for the group version, and they pull off the different personalities well without making it look too disjointed. The transitions are a little messy still, but not to a distracting extent. 22. Precious. We get a few more formation changes in the duo version of Precious, which helps to elevate its character interactions. The ballet inspiration works well in its strong, graceful poses to create some really smooth transitions. The end result is a very elegant and romantic performance. 21. Start Dash Sensation. Although it leans slightly more generic in its movements, Start Dash Sensation's strength is its expressiveness. Its energy carries it through a lot of detailed gestures, and the transitions all feel smooth. The extra reaction to birds flying past makes great use of the stage too. 20. Magical Time. I really enjoy how stylized Magical Time is. There's no character interaction or formation changes, but the toy concept is super strong here. I like how clear the theming is, and the unique movements have great contrast in their transitions. To me, it almost doesn't matter that it's so simple. 19. Miel-Mier. Miel-Mier pushes that same style into more complexity. It's even more stylized and even more expressive. Its fantastic stage gives it an advantage because it adds so many dynamic moments to the progressions. Even the more awkward poses and movements are okay because they add to the comedic tone. 18. Poppin' Bubbles. We started to get into gimmick choreo a little bit, but I have to give Poppin' Bubbles credit for incorporating swimming into its sequences. The floatier sections add a lot of novelty and are a great use of the stage. The rest of the piece is pretty simple, but nothing stands out in a bad way. 17. Ponytail After School. We get even more of that exaggerated toy style in Ponytail After School. I like that it reaches a slightly more whimsical tone in its poses and movements. There's some nice footwork in the progressions and good contrast overall. Even without variation between the characters and formations, I just enjoy the style a lot. 16. Adult Mode. Adult Mode was my baseline for making the most out of limited animation. Everything feels smooth and satisfying here, from the progressions to the posing. There's just a hint of formation changes to highlight specific sections, but the key here is the varied tempo. I used to find this performance a bit awkward, so I was surprised to look closer and find so many strengths. 15. Wake Up My Music. In a similar vein, Wake Up My Music is all about strong posing. Thanks to the delicate tone of the song, the simpler movements fit in perfectly. There are a few clunky transitions, but generally it balances interesting footwork with detailed hand gestures in a satisfying way. I also appreciate all these small character interactions. 14. Hello Hello. Hello Hello is solid all around. Fun footwork, good use of the stage, good energy and expressiveness, and engaging contrast between its movements. It controls its momentum really well for some really fun progressions. Its only weakness is that it's a solo performance, so it's missing out on some extra complexity points. 13. Love Like Caramelize. We finally have some more individualized character animation. There are some awkward transitions here, but I find the posing and character interactions to be very strong. It has great contrast between movements and dynamic formation changes. I can feel a lot of effort, the execution just seems to be about 80% there. 12. Lovely Party Collection. The best part of Lovely Party Collection is all of its formation changes. It's rare to get so much detail in performances with this many characters, and the individualized posing is appreciated. The moves themselves are very simple. We're back to the big repeatable gesture style. It's a good upgrade to the series' original choreo philosophy, simple but effective. 11. Summer Magic. Summer Magic is being hard carried by its flying sequences. It's such a unique element to work with that I had to give it a lot of bonus points for stage integration. The animation is individualized between the characters at several points too, so even with the simpler movements, it still feels engaging. 10. Little Beat Little Wing. As the first member of our top 10, Little Beat Little Wing is one of the most dynamic sequences we've seen so far. There is so much variation in its formations, and the pantomimed instrument concept is very cute. The marching band inspiration comes through clearly, and the large movements read as charming here. There's good stage integration and character interactions, and everything flows smoothly. Its only flaw is that it lacks the contrast needed to feel exciting. 9. Sweet Spice. Sweet Spice has that contrast. It transitions between sweeter, softer movements and more intense ones naturally. While it lacks individualized animation, it has a lot of dynamic formation changes and character interactions. It adds extra complexity in the footwork and balances the idol and rock influences very well. 8. Hey Little Girl. While it's not a song I enjoy, Hey Little Girl makes full use of its retro inspiration in its choreo. It has so much fun footwork, and the progression is both smooth and interesting. It even carries the characters back up the stage, which is very unique. The energy is exceptionally expressive, and it finds a lot of creative transitions to avoid looking generic. 7. Hiyari Hitori Kyori. While it doesn't hold up super strongly, Hiyari Hitori Kyori is still unique for its commitment to being a group number. Formation changes, individualized animation, and character interactions are all prominent features of its choreo. And despite the older style, it generally manages to feel smooth and impactful. 6. Let's Aikatsu. Let's Aikatsu is also committed to being a group number, which is very refreshing for a signature track. The style is playful and childish, but uses strong formation changes to sell it in a really dynamic way. The posing is strong too, and although it is slightly repetitive at times, you can feel how much effort was put into making all of the transitions and progressions engaging. 5. Kirapata Shining. Kirapata Shining is an even more refined version of the tempo shifts we saw in adult mode. It's not doing much with individualization, but there's so much attitude in its progressions and posing that it's consistently one of my favorite performances. There is so much contrast between its movements, and the subtle formation changes it uses are extremely effective. 4. My Showtime. You can tell how badly My Showtime wants to be a sophisticated piece of choreography, and I've given it a ton of credit for effort despite not being a style I enjoy very much. The robotic puppet concept is cool, and there's a lot of interesting footwork. You can see the focus on isolations and body control, and the transitions are purposely a bit less smooth to fit that style. It's extremely unique for Aikatsu. 3. Light Pink Day Tripper. On the opposite end of the style spectrum is Light Pink Day Tripper, which is just as unique with its traditional Japanese influences. The fan props are an exceptionally strong element, and they help pack in even more expressiveness. The movements are dynamic with good contrast, and the slight character interactions are a great touch too. The only thing it could use is more varied formations for extra interest. 2. Chika Chika. A perfect example of those varied formations is Chika Chika. Even though it doesn't have any individualized animations, a lot of the reason for it being second place comes from the way the formations are arranged around the camera. The novel Spanish influences and exciting sword props are just cherries on top of that excellent foundation. And with plenty of character interactions, I have no complaints. 1. Fashion Check. First place goes to Fashion Check, and even though I've used the Season 2 version, the original would have made it up here too. The main reason is that it's fully conceptualized as a group performance, down to the stage design. It uses that big repeatable movement style, but fully develops it with varied formations, character interactions, and individualized sections. Even though it's simple, it still looks smooth and engaging. No other number is this interested in being a full piece of choreography, and it's unique in making the most of both its setting and performers. Let me know your favorite Aikatsu choreographies in the comments below, and look out for my Swing Rock Photokatsu ranking next week. Bye bye!
Rock the Aikatsu!